The Gulf of Mexico is once again the focus of national attention, as all eyes turn to the horizon where a new threat is brewing. The region, known for its vibrant coastal communities and bustling ports, is now bracing for what could be one of the most significant weather events of the season. Tropical Storm Helene is rapidly intensifying over the Gulf's unusually warm waters, drawing energy from the sea and growing stronger with every passing hour. Meteorologists are closely monitoring the storm's development, noting how quickly it has escalated from a minor disturbance to a formidable system. This is no ordinary summer storm. Helene is strengthening at an alarming rate, fueled by record-breaking sea surface temperatures and nearly ideal atmospheric conditions for rapid intensification. Experts warn that these factors could push Helene to hurricane status much sooner than initially predicted, leaving little time for residents to prepare. Satellite images reveal a storm that is becoming more organized and dangerous by the hour, its swirling bands tightening and its eye beginning to form. The system's structure is a clear sign that Helene is gaining strength and could soon unleash its full fury on the Gulf Coast. Forecasters across the region are sounding the alarm, warning that Helene could become a major hurricane in a matter of hours. Emergency alerts are lighting up phones and television screens, urging residents to stay informed and be ready to act at a moment's notice. The memories of last year's catastrophic Helene are still painfully fresh for many. Streets that once bustled with life were left underwater, homes were destroyed, and entire neighborhoods were changed forever. The scars of that disaster linger, making the threat of another powerful storm even more frightening. Across the Gulf Coast, fear and anxiety are mounting. Residents are boarding up windows, stocking up on supplies and waiting in long lines at grocery stores. The sense of urgency is palpable as families remember the chaos and heartbreak of past storms and vow to do everything they can to protect their loved ones. With the window for preparation rapidly closing, officials are urging everyone in the projected path to take immediate action. Emergency crews are mobilizing, and local authorities are holding press conferences to provide the latest updates and safety instructions. Helene is now a clear and present danger, not a distant threat. The storm's projected path shows it barreling toward the coast, and the time to make critical decisions is running out. The time for waiting is over. Urgent preparation is essential. Families are packing emergency kits, loading sandbags and making evacuation plans, determined not to be caught off guard. As the storm barrels toward the coast, respect its power and heed all warnings. The coming hours will be critical, and the actions taken now could mean the difference between safety and tragedy. Forecast models now agree. Helene is on a direct collision course with Florida's Big Bend, a region that has rarely seen storms of this magnitude. Over the past several days, meteorologists have watched Helene's path with growing concern, as each new update has narrowed the projected landfall zone. The consensus is clear: this is a serious threat, and the time to act is now. Landfall is expected late Thursday, giving residents a rapidly shrinking window to prepare. As the hours tick by, the sense of urgency grows. The skies are already darkening and the first hints of Helene's approach are visible along the coast. This vulnerable stretch of coastline, known for its low-lying communities and limited evacuation routes, faces the prospect of a major hurricane, likely Category 3 or higher. Winds are forecast to exceed 111 miles per hour, strong enough to cause catastrophic damage. Such winds can devastate homes, snap trees like twigs, and leave entire neighborhoods without power for weeks. The aftermath of a storm like this can be life-altering, with families displaced and communities struggling to recover. Helene is expected to intensify rapidly as it moves over the Gulf's deep, warm waters. These conditions act like fuel, allowing the storm to reach peak strength just before landfall. The potential for rapid intensification means the situation could become even more dangerous in a matter of hours. Residents have only hours left to finalize preparations or evacuate. Emergency officials are urging everyone in the projected path to take action immediately. Waiting could be deadly. Supplies are running low and roads are becoming congested as more people heed the warnings. The first impacts, rain bands and gusty winds, will arrive well before the eye of the storm, making last-minute action dangerous and potentially impossible. Once these outer bands hit, conditions will deteriorate rapidly, and emergency services may not be able to respond. The cone of uncertainty covers a wide area, stretching across much of northern Florida and beyond. Anyone within this zone must prepare for a direct hit, as even small shifts in the storm's path could bring the worst impacts to new communities. Helene's effects will stretch far beyond the center, Tropical storm-force winds will impact hundreds of miles, toppling trees, damaging infrastructure, and making travel hazardous across a vast region. This is a large-scale event that will affect much of the southeast, with flooding, power outages, and emergency responses expected across multiple states. The days ahead will test the resilience of communities throughout the region as Helene's full impact unfolds. When a major hurricane like Helene approaches, it brings with it two formidable dangers: destructive winds and relentless torrential rain. These twin threats can transform entire communities in a matter of hours, leaving behind a trail of devastation that can take months or even years to recover from. The first threat is the wind. Sustained winds exceeding 111 miles per hour are powerful enough to rip roofs off sturdy buildings, shatter windows, and send debris hurtling through the air at dangerous speeds. Even well-built homes and businesses can suffer severe damage, while less secure structures may be completely destroyed. Flying debris becomes a major hazard, capable of injuring anyone caught outside and causing further destruction to property. These intense gusts will topple trees and power lines, blocking roads and causing widespread power outages that can last for days or even weeks. Older homes, especially those not built to modern hurricane standards, are particularly vulnerable. The aftermath often reveals entire neighborhoods transformed, with streets littered by fallen branches, tangled wires, and damaged homes. Mobile homes face an even greater risk. Their lightweight construction makes them especially susceptible to high winds, and history has shown that hurricanes can devastate entire mobile home communities. That's why evacuation orders are not just recommendations, they are life-saving directives for those living in vulnerable areas. Heeding these warnings can mean the difference between safety and tragedy, but wind is only half the story. Helene is also expected to unleash a deluge, dumping between 4 and 8 inches of rain across a wide area, with some locations potentially seeing up to a foot or more. This much rain in such a short time can quickly overwhelm local drainage systems, turning streets into rivers and low-lying neighborhoods into lakes. The resulting flash flooding can make roads impassable, stranding vehicles and cutting off access for emergency responders. Residents may find themselves trapped in their homes, and even those who try to evacuate at the last minute could be caught by rapidly rising waters. Flooded roads are not just an inconvenience, they can be deadly. The danger doesn't stop at the coast. The flooding threat extends far inland, as rivers swell beyond their banks and the saturated ground increases the risk of trees toppling over. Communities far from the ocean can still face significant flooding, property damage, and power outages, sometimes days after the storm has passed. Even after Helene makes landfall, its rain and wind will continue to batter towns and cities well away from the coast. Inland residents must remain vigilant, as the storm's effects can linger, bringing continued threats of flooding, wind damage, and dangerous travel conditions. It's the combination of these two forces, howling winds and relentless water, that makes a major hurricane like Helene especially dangerous. Preparing for both threats is essential to protect lives and property when the next storm strikes. The deadliest threat from Helene may be the storm surge, a massive dome of water pushed ashore by hurricane winds. Forecasts warn of a life-threatening surge of 10 to 15 feet in Florida's Big Bend, enough to inundate entire neighborhoods. Imagine a wall of water taller than a house sweeping inland, destroying buildings and reshaping the coastline. The region's shallow, concave coastline acts like a funnel, amplifying the surge and leaving communities exposed. Once the water rises, escape is nearly impossible. Evacuation orders are urgent pleas for survival. Emergency services will not be able to reach those who stay behind. Property can be replaced, lives cannot. If you're in a surge zone, move to higher ground now. The ocean's power must be respected. Florida's Big Bend is bracing for a direct hit, with small towns and marshlands facing catastrophic storm surge and winds. Emergency operations are in full swing, with mandatory evacuations for mobile homes and low-lying areas. Memories of past storms, especially last year's Helene, add urgency to preparations. Residents are boarding up homes, stocking supplies, and making tough decisions about whether to stay or go. Officials are clear staying in the path of the surge is not survivable. The region's resilience is being tested yet again as the first bands of Helene approach. The next 48 hours will decide the fate of this vulnerable coastline. State and federal leaders are mobilizing rapidly as Helene approaches. Florida's governor has declared a state of emergency for most of the state, activating the National Guard and streamlining disaster response. Mandatory evacuations are in effect for the most at-risk coastal areas, with law enforcement going door-to-door to ensure compliance. Georgia is also under a state of emergency, and the president has approved federal disaster aid in advance. Resources, food, water, emergency crews are being pre-positioned for rapid deployment. This coordinated response is designed to save lives, but it depends on the public heeding official instructions. The time to act is now. Helene's devastation won't stop at the coast. Its effects will reach deep inland. Cities like Atlanta are preparing for flash flooding and power outages as the storm's remnants move north. Downed trees and saturated ground will make outages widespread, so residents should prepare for days without electricity. Major highways may close due to flooding, disrupting travel and supply chains across the southeast. Agriculture will suffer, with crops destroyed by wind and rain. The economic ripple effects will be felt nationwide. Inland flooding is a silent killer. Know your risk and never drive through floodwaters. Stay alert, stay prepared, and don't underestimate Helene, no matter where you live. The threat of Helene is magnified by the memory of last year's catastrophic hurricane of the same name. In 2024, Helene struck the Big Bend as a Category 4, leaving historic destruction and hundreds dead. Recovery is still ongoing, with new building codes and elevated homes a direct response to that disaster. The arrival of another Helene is a psychological blow to a region still healing, but the lessons of 2024 are clear. Preparation saves lives. Survivors' stories are a powerful call to action for everyone in the storm's path. Forecasters and officials are using hard-won experience to refine warnings and evacuation plans. The past is a stark reminder: when a major hurricane is forecast, you must act. With Helene's path and power now clear, the time for action is now. Follow evacuation orders and official guidance. Your life depends on it. Prepare a disaster kit, make a family plan, and let loved ones know your whereabouts. Don't underestimate this storm or rely on past experience. Every hurricane is different. The memory of last year's devastation should be a sobering reminder. Our safety depends on everyone taking warnings seriously and working together. Property can be replaced, lives cannot. Stay safe, stay prepared, and heed the warnings as Helene approaches.